Today's session is on grinder safety. This is, these are tools that we use all the time. If you're in any hands-on industry at all, a hand grinder, an angle grinder, or bench grinder is just part of our operation. There are also tools that come with some pretty significant hazards. If you're just looking at it from an OSHA standpoint, this is also one of the most common OSHA citations. When I've walked along on OSHA inspections or been inspected by OSHA, the inspectors almost get giddy when they see a bench grinder sitting there because they know they're going to be able to write a ticket on that one. So this is an area where I think we can always improve. We can do better on this, not just from an OSHA standpoint, but most importantly, to keep you safe, to keep stuff out of your eyes, to keep your fingers in place and all of those things. And so that's why we want to talk about grinder safety today. So let's just talk about some real basic level. What is a grinder? It is an abrasive wheel or disc tool that is used to cut, grind, remove material, or to sharpen something by removing that material. It's a pretty simple operation. It's basically powered sandpaper that will allow us to sharpen or grind stuff down. They're handy. They're nice tools. We're gonna divide those into two basic types: bench grinders and angle grinders. But a lot of the stuff is similar on each of these, and so we'll talk about them at the same time. But just know that these can either be fixed in place, anchored to the workbench, or they can be portable, like an angle grinder that we can move around. They can be corded, that we have to plug into the wall, or cordless. And we're seeing a lot more of those cordless in recent years because the battery technology has made them a lot better. And since they're so portable, we're using these tools a lot more than we have in the past. And so the potential for injury or accidents from that really has gone up. So these hazards that we talk about are pretty broad-based, from a wheel or a disc blowing up on you and shooting shrapnel out at you, hitting you in the face and all over, to entanglement. You get your clothing or your hair wrapped up in one of these tools, to electrical issues using cords, or battery issues using lithium ion batteries. There are also things like hazardous dust and noise that go along with using these as well, that are all pretty significant hazards. And so we got to deal with them. All right. So why do these accidents happen? Many times accidents happen because we're using damaged or defective tools. We don't take them out of operation when there's a problem. We're using them when they've got a bad wheel or disc on there that's damaged and it flies apart. We may use the wrong size of media or the wrong media for the job that could cause it to fail. Maybe we haven't maintained it. Maybe it's not grounded because somebody broke off that third prong on the cord. Or maybe we're not using the proper PPE, and we get something in our eye. Okay. Well, let's dive in and talk about just some basic things about making a grinder work safely. So I want to use the right tool for the job. So if I decide I'm going to use an angle grinder, then I've got to decide, what am I trying to do? If I'm trying to cut, I'm going to use a cutting disc. If I'm trying to grind, I'm going to use a grinding disc. Now, that seems pretty simple, but sometimes it's easy to go, oh, well, I know I've got a cutting disc on here, but I need to grind this down. We're using the tool in the wrong way, and it could cause it to fail. Make sure we're using the right size of media for that. If it's a 4.5-inch angle grinder, that's the disc that you should purchase or get out of the tool crib for that operation. So make sure it's the right size. Make sure it is the appropriate RPM, or revolutions per minute. and your grinder is going to have an RPM rating on it, and your media, your disc, is going to have an RPM rating on it. What do we want to have the higher number? I want the media that's going to be turning at, in this case, 12,225 revolutions per minute. I want that number to be higher than the number on the tool itself. Why? If I over rotate that media, then it could cause it to fly apart. Just imagine if you've ever been on a merry-go-round and it goes faster and faster. Imagine if you're out on the edge of that, exactly what those forces are turning around at 12,000 revolutions per minute. That can cause some quick damage there. So make sure we've got the right stuff and that we install it correctly. All right, let's shift gears just a little bit to the media for a bench grinder. If I need to replace a stone or wheel on that bench grinder, I need to first verify that new wheel is in good condition and it doesn't have hairline cracks that maybe I couldn't even see that could cause it to fail. So I'm going to perform what we call a ring test. And as you can see in this picture, the person picks it up carefully. I generally will take a screwdriver and put through there so I don't deaden it by the way that he's doing it with the finger, but it will work either way. And tap that wheel with the handle of another tool. Generally, I like to use like a wood hammer handle, but they're using a screwdriver here, and that would work as well. I'm not smacking it really hard, I'm just tapping it, and it should produce a ringing sound. That means it's in good condition. If I tap it and it produces a dull thud, that means there's a crack in it, and I should throw that wheel away right now. And I would dare say you'd be better off if you could break that wheel, if you can do it safely, so nobody is tempted to put that onto the grinder. So make sure it passes a ring test first. Put all the parts back onto it. If there are flanges or blotters that go along the edge of that wheel, do that. Snug this up, but don't over tighten it. That could cause cracks. And then we need to adjust our guards, and we'll talk about that more in just a minute. Once again, just a reminder, use the right disc, use the right wheels for the job. Do not exceed the capabilities of the tool. What happens when I turn this angle grinder on and it has this ginormous disc on there? It's going to be really ugly, and it could hurt me really bad when that disc flies apart. Keep those guards in place. So when we look at an angle grinder, it has one simple guard, and both of these grinders in this picture, which I took years ago, both of these grinders are lacking the guard. The guard is a little half-moon shaped guard that goes around that disc. The purpose of it is to protect you from shrapnel when the disc blows apart. It's not if, it's when. These discs, unfortunately, with use, are going to fail. And when they fail, we don't want those little razor sharp shards of that coming out at 12,000 RPMs, which equates to over 100 miles per hour. We don't want that hitting us in the face. So we put that guard in place. These guards are designed to rotate around that disc, around the shaft that comes out there, so we can place it in between us and the disc, and also allow us to be able to use the tool where we're working. Some people complain about these guards and say, I can't use it. It won't allow me to get where I'm going. Well, in most cases, that's because they don't understand the use of this guard. Turn it to the right place, and then you can use the angle grinder in the area that you're trying to work. So keep those guards on, adjust those, and make sure that they're functioning as they should. When I look at a bench grinder, we also have some guards. Oh, number one, before we get to those, make sure your grinder is securely attached to the bench or whatever it is that we have it mounted to. That means bolts, right? We're going to bolt that there so it can't come loose and fall off in your lap as you're grinding, or fall off onto the ground. This is an important first step. But let's talk about the guards that are on this. There's a major guard that goes around the wheels. And that needs to be in place. There's another smaller guard, and sometimes it's all incorporated in one. It's called a flange guard over the end that prevents you from getting into the bolt and nut that hold the wheel in place. Those all need to be in place. And then there are two adjustable guards that are really important, that they're adjusted into the right location. One of those is the tool rest, and the other is what we call the tongue guard. The tool rest is one that we're familiar with. It's in red in this diagram. This is the old OSHA diagram. It's been around since 1970, since OSHA was first passed by Congress. This has been around forever. The tongue guard is the part that's in blue. The purpose of the tongue guard is to slow down shrapnel when a stone fails, or when parts of our stock get drawn through and are ejected from the grinder. And so this needs to be adjusted down close to the wheel. How close, you say? Well, within 1/4 inch of that wheel. And so this is an adjustable guard. It goes up and down. And so throughout the life of that wheel, as it's consumed, I need to be continuously adjusting that guard. Same thing goes for the tool rest. What does the tool rest do? Well, it says it right in the name. We take our tool or our stock that we're grinding, and we place that onto the tool rest, and it's designed to give us a rest and a little bit of leverage there, so it doesn't pull that tool or stock further down into the wheel. And I can adjust the angle of that. So if I want a specific angle, I've got a chisel that I need to put a specific angle on. I can adjust that and lay that in on just the perfect angle. And this guard is important because I don't want to get my fingers or the part that I'm grinding drawn down into there. And so this tool rest needs to be really close to the wheel. How close do you say? 1/8 of an inch away from the wheel. Now that's really close. And so when you adjust this, you should certainly manually spin that wheel around and ensure that it's not going to touch at any time there, but keep it 1/8 of an inch away. And once again, this is a constantly adjusted guard. This is something that we need to be aware of every time we're using it. This diagram, we'll send that out to everybody that signed up for this webinar, and there's some text that goes along with it as well. My recommendation is you get it in the email, print it up, and stick it up on the wall right behind your grinder. Then nobody has an excuse to not know exactly how these should be adjusted. But this takes action from us every time we're using it. Why? Well, because if we don't, you can get drawn into these things and grind your knuckles off, or worse. Well, personal protective equipment is also really important. Obviously, safety glasses are required for when we're using a grinder of any sort, because we're going to be throwing sparks and chips and stuff all over the place as part of this operation. So for sure that, but what about a face shield? My recommendation is that you always use a face shield when you're using a bench grinder, as well as an angle grinder, a hand grinder. I have seen far too many situations and unfortunately investigated accidents after which people have had discs off of an angle grinder cut their throat. Had one, fortunately, safety glasses saved this guy's eye. It penetrated his safety glasses, but missed his eye with one of these discs that went through. My recommendation is always wear a face shield, because it's more than just your eyes that are at risk when these discs can fly apart, or just simply parts off of the material that we're grinding can fall apart. Also, make sure that your clothing is non-combustible. Cotton's best for that. Not necessarily required to have FR rated clothing for this, but it's not a bad idea. Keep your hair and clothing under control. Don't have loose clothing around. Don't have hair, long hair, wafting around there to get caught into that spinning apparatus and draw you in. That's going to ruin your day if that happens. So make sure that's under control. Now, I have on here gloves, and there's a lot of disagreement in the safety community over whether you should wear gloves when you're using a grinder. And a lot of safety professionals out there are going to say, don't ever wear gloves when you're doing this. Now, I lean towards using gloves, but using gloves smart. We need to have gloves that fit snugly to our hands. We need to have them so they're not going to be captured. I prefer to use gloves because of all of the other hazards that go on. There are going to be hot sparks. There are going to be particles that will be coming around there. We're dealing with sharp materials many times because we're grinding stuff, and so lacerations are a big hazard. And so that's where I made my decision on gloves and grinders. Is the other hazards are really important as well. And so let's wear gloves, but make sure that they fit snugly, and so we don't get drawn up into that. All right, gotta keep going. These tools are electrically operated, either through a cord or through a battery. If I've got a corded grinder, well, I need to inspect that periodically. Take a look and make sure, like in this picture, somebody hasn't cut the third prong off of there, the grounding prong. Make sure that the insulation is all in good condition. Keep liquids off of these tools. Provide a portable ground fault circuit interrupter if we're in an area where there's potential for water exposure to that. Don't yank your cords out, and just the basic things around electrical safety there. Well, when I throw in a battery operated grinder, that kind of changes things up just a little bit. These batteries that we're using today are extremely powerful. That's what's made it so we can use these portable tools as much as we do, because the batteries will last a long time and we get a lot of torque out of them. They're great that way, but they also have some downsides. Lithium-ion batteries have the potential to fail spectacularly, and this is called a thermal runaway. And so if we're abusing these batteries, the chance that happens goes way up. So let's just talk about some basics on these batteries. Don't beat them up. Don't throw them into the toolbox. Don't leave them on the charger for months at a time. When they're charged, take them off the charger. Use only UL listed equipment. That's Underwriters Laboratory, and there'll be a little sticker on there. Excuse me, a little label on there that says UL. And that means that it meets the appropriate electrical designations. If I buy a cheap knockoff of some of these tools that's not Underwriters listed, then I could have some problems with that battery. Chances of a thermal runaway go up with that. Keep these batteries stored away from combustible materials, because if it goes, it's going to light a fire. And so let's keep it away from combustible materials. When you're done charging, unplug that thing. Be nice to your batteries. Inspect them on a regular basis. And if they're damaged, take them out of service and let's get rid of them. Don't leave them bouncing around, because they can have a thermal runaway sitting on a shelf somewhere just as easily as out in the field being used. Okay. All right. Maintain your tools. Make sure they're in good shape. So this is a not very good picture, but it's a grinding wheel on a bench grinder that has become really grooved from the grinding they were doing on it. Well, this wheel needs to be dressed, and what that means is we're going to square it up. There are dressing tools that you can use that basically you grind the grinding wheel and square it up and make it safe to operate. Because if I've got those little ridges there, the chances that some of that flakes off and flies out at me are pretty good. So make sure they're dressed. Keep them in good condition. If there's any question about whether some of this media, a wheel or a disc, is safe to operate or it's in bad condition, throw it away and get a new one. These are consumables, and we don't want them flying out and hitting you in the face. So once again, if you see a hole in it, if you see damage on it, throw it away. Consumable items, we can put another one on there and do it safely. A couple other things. Don't grind soft metals like aluminum or even brass or these generally non-ferrous metals will get embedded into the pores on the stone, and as you grind, they can expand and cause the stone to fail. Now, there are some manufacturers out there that say they have some media for softer metals, but if you're going to do that, make sure that it's appropriate for what you're doing, and you're not just guessing and saying that. We have files and other tools that we can use on those soft metals that will allow us to do that without putting ourselves at risk. Other things: don't grind on the side of one of these bench grinder wheels. That can cause it to fail, cause it to be weakened. Other hazards. As we grind, we're going to be making dusts, sometimes fumes, and even potentially gases coming off of there that could be toxic to us. Some of these things, if I'm out grinding on masonry or concrete, the chance that I get crystalline silica up in the air is really high. And if you're interested in that, if that's the kind of work you do, and you're watching on YouTube in particular, we'll put a link up here to a video we did on crystalline silica exposures and how to prevent those, how to control those. But be aware of that. There are times when I may be using ventilation to take away the toxic dusts and problems that I'm generating by grinding. There are other times I may be using respiratory protection. So make sure you're talking with your safety people if you have those there. If you've got a question about that and you don't have professionals to help out, that's what Mike and I are for, is to help out in determining what the best use of this is. Other things like noise and vibration can be issues. Make sure you're wearing your earplugs when you're grinding. And that's not just for noise. Over my career, I've had multiple situations where people have had sparks get into their ear and burn sometimes their eardrum, sometimes just the inside of their ear, but it's a really nasty, pretty tender flesh inside of your ear, and to get a hot spark in there is not very pleasant. So earplugs are really good, not just to prevent noise exposure, but also for those burns as well. All right, we covered a lot of stuff about grinders, and I would love to hear any questions that you have. So go ahead and type those into the chat box right now as I go through my summary, and we'll be happy to answer those. Just once again, these are essential tools that most of us out there are using on a fairly regular basis. They have some pretty significant hazards and multiple hazards as well. So we got to be smart about how we go about using this. Use the right media, use the right tool for the job. If it becomes damaged, take it out of service, throw away the old media that is damaged. Keep those guards in place. Adjust those in the right way. Wear your PPE. You may have been one of the ones today's like, yeah, I wear my safety glasses, and you're like, Jason, you're telling me that I gotta wear a face shield on this too? Well, think about it. Take that cutting disc that you've got on that angle grinder and rub it. No, don't rub it up against your your jugular vein. that carotid artery there, and just think about if this thing comes out at over 100 miles per hour and hits you there or hits you in the face, would you want to have that face shield in place? Yeah, that's where I land on that. And just be smart about these things. Mike, do we have any questions or comments that have come in?
Nope, I don't have any questions or comments, folks. If you got them, send them in. We can't let Jason off this easy this morning. Let's try and stump him here and give him something that he's got to go for.
I challenged them to see if they knew how to use the chat box, and
I asked if this thing was on, and no one said anything, so I don't know if it's on.
Wow. All right. Well, thanks, folks, for your time and attention today. I hope this has been something that's beneficial to you. Remember, do it right every time. Go home safe every day. Go out and have a safe day. Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.